In this book, you will learn how to unlock the ancient power of the Vedic teachings to manifest your deepest desires. From the sacred practice of intention setting to harnessing the magnetic force of belief, you'll discover tools that will transform your reality. This isn't just theory. These are real actionable steps that can change your life today. Join me on this journey and see how belief bends reality. The Vedic Law of Attraction. Introduction. The hidden power within. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract the life they desire, while others struggle to manifest their dreams? It's not luck. It's not magic. It's the ancient power of intention, energy, and universal laws that have been passed down for thousands of years. And it's all within your reach. Welcome to the Vedic Law of Attraction. The world around us is alive, vibrating with energy. Everything, from the smallest grain of sand to the tallest mountain, is interconnected. You too are part of this vast living universe, and you carry within you the same creative power that shapes everything around you. In this book, you'll learn how to harness the ancient wisdom of the Vedas, the sacred texts that form the foundation of one of the world's oldest spiritual traditions, and apply it to the modern world. This is not some passive theory or abstract concept. The Vedic principles are practical tools for transformation. These teachings can be used to shape your reality, to manifest your desires, and to bring about the life you've always dreamed of. This journey begins with an understanding of your deepest self, your true power. As you read through the chapters, you'll uncover how ancient teachings such as sankalpa, intention, karma, action, vairagya, non-attachment, and more can be applied in real life to create profound, lasting change. These principles are not just theoretical. They are the very fabric of reality itself, woven into the universe like invisible threads, guiding your every thought and action. But this book is not just about learning, it's about doing. Each chapter ends with a simple, actionable tip or mindset shift that you can implement right away. Because true change doesn't happen in the mind alone. It happens in the body, in the world around you. This is your call to action. You will hear stories of real people from all walks of life who have transformed their lives by tapping into the Vedic Law of Attraction. These are not abstract ideas. They are lived experiences. Whether it's Sarah, a single mother in Texas, or Ravi, a struggling immigrant entrepreneur in New York, the principles in this book have helped people just like you step into their power, rewrite their stories, and create a life of abundance and fulfillment. At the heart of this book lies one simple truth. Reality bends when belief begins. The way you think, the way you feel, and the actions you take in alignment with your beliefs can shape the life you live. No longer will you be a passive participant in your life. You will become the creator of your own reality. Are you ready to step into your power, to embrace your true creative potential, to rewrite your story and manifest your dreams? Let's begin this journey together, and remember, reality bends when belief begins. Chapter 1. The Power Within You. Sarah sat on the cold kitchen floor of her small apartment in Austin, Texas, her back against the cabinet, eviction notice crumpled in her trembling hand. The sink dripped steadily, a cruel reminder of everything that felt broken in her life. Her 5-year-old daughter, Lily, slept in the next room, unaware that by the end of the month, they might not have a home. Sarah's chest tightened with panic. How had it come to this? She had done everything she thought she was supposed to do, worked 2 jobs, juggled bills, stayed strong for her daughter. But tonight, sitting in the quiet wreckage of her life, Sarah felt utterly defeated. Then in the stillness, something surprising happened. Sarah looked up at the dim kitchen light and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." But the moment the words left her lips, a second voice inside her, a quiet, unfamiliar one, responded, "What if you can?" It wasn't loud, it wasn't even clear, but it was enough to make Sarah pause. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, Sarah sat in front of the mirror. Her reflection looked exhausted, eyes rimmed with tears. She stared at herself for a long time, and then, without knowing why, she placed her hand over her heart and whispered, "I can change this." She didn't realize it then, but that single moment would become the turning point of her life. In Vedic philosophy, this moment is where the true journey begins. The ancient sages spoke of Atman, the innermost self, the divine spark within every being. Atman is not separate from the universe. It is the universe, living and breathing through you. Modern life teaches us to look outward for answers, but the Vedic tradition teaches that the wellspring of power, creativity, and transformation already lives within. Sarah, like so many of us, had been searching outside herself. For a second job, for a break, for someone to save her. But in that quiet moment in front of the mirror, she touched something ancient. The awareness that she was more than her circumstances. She was not the job she lost, not the bills she couldn't pay, not the pain in her chest. She was consciousness itself, creative, powerful, infinite. The days that followed weren't easy. Sarah still had overdue bills. The eviction notice didn't magically disappear. But something inside her had shifted. She started each morning by standing in front of her mirror, hand over her heart, whispering, "I am one with the creative power of life." At first it felt awkward, but with each passing day the words began to take root. She found herself walking taller, speaking with more confidence, asking for help when she needed it. Opportunities that once seemed invisible started to appear. A neighbor offered her part-time work, a local church helped cover part of her rent, and an online course taught her new job skills. Sarah's outer world began to change, but the real magic was in her inner world. As her belief in herself deepened, her reality started to bend in response. Reality bends when belief begins. This is not magic or superstition. It's the living truth of how consciousness shapes experience. When you awaken to the truth of Atman, within you stop living as a victim of life and start living as a co-creator. The takeaway from Sarah's story is simple but profound. You are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are part of it, woven into its fabric. The same energy that spins galaxies and birth stars pulses through your veins. You are powerful beyond what you've been taught to believe. But power without practice fades. That's why your first practice begins today. Stand in front of a mirror each morning. Place your hand on your heart. Say aloud, "I am one with the creative power of life." Don't rush it. Look into your own eyes. Let the words settle into your bones. You may feel silly at first. That's okay. Keep going. You are awakening the deepest part of yourself. The part that already knows you. Are enough, that you are capable, that you are powerful. As Sarah's story reminds us, transformation doesn't require perfection. It requires permission to believe in your own strength, to reach for something better, and to trust that the universe responds when you rise. Because always, reality bends when belief begins. And so, as you move into the next chapter, remember this. The power you seek is already within you. You only need to remember. Chapter 2. Sankalpa, the sacred intention. Ravi Patel stared out the window of his tiny cafe in Queens, New York, watching the rain streak down the glass. His hands trembled as he flipped through overdue bills, the weight of responsibility pressing on his chest like a stone. 4 years ago, he had come to the U.S. with big dreams, opening his own cafe, sharing the spices and flavors of his childhood in Mumbai with the world. But now, standing in his quiet kitchen with just one customer sipping chai in the corner, his dream was slipping through his fingers. That night, long after the last chair had been stacked, Ravi sat alone at one of his worn wooden tables. He pressed, his palms together, resting his forehead on his hands, and let the silence wash over him. The noise in his head, the panic, the doubt, the constant rehearsing of failure, softened for just a moment. And from that quiet came a simple, clear thought: I will rise. This was Ravi's sankalpa, a deep soul-level intention. In Vedic tradition, a sankalpa is not just a wish or a goal, it's a sacred vow, a statement of truth that aligns you with your highest purpose. It's not meant to come from ego. I want to get rich, I want to crush the competition, but from the heart, I want to serve, to grow, to rise into my potential. Ravi didn't know all the ancient philosophy behind it, but something in him understood. The next morning, before unlocking the cafe, he stood behind the counter, closed his eyes, and whispered to himself, I will rise. With each repetition, the words began to feel less like a desperate plea and more like a steady promise. The first change was small. Ravi started tweaking his menu, adding items customers had been asking for but he'd resisted. Vegan options, gluten-free pastries, turmeric lattes. He reached out to the neighborhood Facebook group, offering a free chai tasting event. He lit a candle each morning and whispered his sankalpa again, I will rise, before opening the doors. Within a month, the energy in the cafe shifted. A local food blogger discovered the spot and posted a glowing review. A yoga studio down the street began ordering catering for their workshops. Slowly, the tables filled. But the most profound change was in Ravi himself. Instead of moving through his day weighed down by fear, he carried himself with quiet confidence, with the steady heartbeat of his sankalpa pulsing in the background. Vedic tradition teaches that a sankalpa, when planted like a seed in the fertile soil of the mind, begins to shape reality. It's not magic. It's alignment. The mind focuses, the body follows, and the universe meets you halfway. Ravi's intention didn't make his debts disappear overnight, but it drew his attention to opportunities, sparked his creativity, and gave him the resilience to keep showing up. The key, though, is setting intentions from the heart, not the ego. A sankalpa born from comparison, greed, or insecurity will always crumble under pressure. But one that emerges from your deepest values, from love, service, growth, truth, has staying power. Practice. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone or rush into your day, sit quietly for a moment. Place your hand on your heart and ask, what do I truly long for? Listen. Then craft your sankalpa. One clear, positive statement. Write it down and say it out loud. Let it guide you, not as a taskmaster, but as a compass. As Ravi learned, when you hold your sankalpa with devotion, life begins to open around you. Doors you didn't see appear. People are drawn to your energy. The small steps you take become part of a much larger dance, and when doubt creeps in, as it will, come back to the anchor phrase that carried Ravi through his darkest days. Reality bends when belief begins. Chapter 3. Mantra and Mindset. Lisa sat in her hospital room in Los Angeles, the sterile smell of antiseptic filling the air as she stared at the white walls. Her body, frail from months of chemotherapy, felt like a prison. But it was her mind, she realized, that had imprisoned her the most. Thoughts of fear, pain, and uncertainty swirled endlessly in her head, making every breath feel like a struggle. She closed her eyes and exhaled slowly, knowing this was the moment she needed to choose. Would she let fear define her, or would she take control of her mind? In that quiet room, Lisa remembered something her grandmother had told her years ago. The mind is the key to everything, child. What you think, you become. Those words had always stayed with her, though she hadn't understood their true power until now. She'd been battling cancer for over a year, and despite the doctor's hopeful words, the fear kept rising within her. It was easy to feel like a victim, to fall into the belief that she had no control over what happened next. But what if she could reframe her journey, shift her perception, and find healing through something as simple as her thoughts? She turned to the small wooden beads on her nightstand, a gift from a friend who had always spoken of the power of mantra. A mantra, a sacred sound, was more than just words. It was a tool to transform the mind, to break free from the constant negative loops that held people in fear. With a deep breath, Lisa picked up the beads, feeling their smooth texture in her hands. She repeated softly, almost like a whisper at first, "I am healing. I am strong." At first the words felt foreign, almost like a lie. Her body was tired, weak, and broken. How could she say she was strong when she felt anything but? But as she repeated the mantra, something inside her began to shift. Slowly, the fear that had taken root in her heart began to loosen its grip. She wasn't cured yet, but she felt something stir in her mind, a glimmer of hope. Lisa repeated the mantra again and again, not just in her hospital bed, but during every moment of her day. When the pain flared up, she whispered, "I am healing." When the uncertainty threatened to drown her, she said, "I am strong." With each repetition, she began to feel a sense of control returning. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a quick fix. But what the mantra did was this. It gave Lisa a way to focus her mind, to turn scattered energy into a single powerful force. Her thoughts were no longer bouncing around in chaos. They were grounded in a single intention: healing. With each word, she was aligning her energy with her body's natural ability to heal. Lisa's doctors were amazed at her progress. Her scans showed improvement, and her energy levels were rising. But it wasn't just the medical treatments that had changed. It was her mindset. The mantra had become her anchor, a constant reminder that her mind, her belief, had power. In a world full of uncertainty, she had discovered the key to peace. The Vedic teachings on mantra emphasize that words have vibration. Everything we say, every thought we think is a ripple in the fabric of reality. Just like a stone creates waves in a pond, our words and thoughts send vibrations into the universe, shaping the reality around us. This is why it's so important to choose our words wisely. If Lisa had continued to feed her mind with fear and doubt, she would have only strengthened those negative beliefs. But by choosing a healing mantra, she redirected her focus, reshaped her mindset, and began to attract healing into her life. The takeaway here is clear. Words are powerful. The mind is the creative force behind our reality. What we focus on, what we repeat to ourselves, shapes our world. Lisa's mantra didn't cure her overnight, but it helped her to reconnect with the strength that had always been inside her. It allowed her to rise above the fear and embrace the possibility of healing. Practice. Take a moment right now to choose your own personal mantra. It could be something simple, like "I am worthy," "I am enough," or "I am abundant." Find a phrase that resonates with your soul, something that feels true and empowering. Repeat it to yourself throughout the day, whether it's while you're walking, driving, or sitting in silence. Each time you speak the mantra, feel its energy vibrating through your body. Let it realign your thoughts, calm your mind, and focus your intentions. Remember, the words you speak are not just sounds, they are seeds. Choose wisely, for they will grow into the reality you create. Chapter 4. Karma. Aligning action and desire. Mark stood in the small kitchen of his Chicago restaurant, the sharp scent of garlic and fresh herbs filling the air. His hands moved with precision, chopping vegetables, stirring sauces, each motion practiced almost mechanical. For years he had been caught in a cycle of striving. Every day was a race to meet the next deadline, every dish an attempt to make his restaurant stand out, to build a name. He had a vision, a dream of creating a place where food could change lives, where flavors could spark emotions. But no matter how hard he worked, it seemed like the success he wanted was always just out of reach. His restaurant was doing well enough, but there was always a lingering feeling of frustration. He felt like he was running in place, working twice as hard for half the reward. It wasn't until one late-night conversation with a regular customer, an older woman named Mrs. Patel, that Mark's understanding of success would shift forever. "Mark," she said as she took her seat at the bar, "you work harder than anyone I know, but let me ask you something. Do you work with your dream or against it?" He paused, wiping his brow. "What do you mean?" "I've been working on my dream for years." Mrs. Patel smiled kindly, but there was a depth in her gaze that made Mark feel like she could see into his soul. "You're working, yes. But are you working in alignment with your dream, or are you pushing it away with every frantic step you take?" The word stuck with him for days. Was he really working in alignment with his dream, or was he just caught in a whirlpool of action, hoping something would stick? Mark knew he had to find the answer. And fast. It was during a quiet evening, after his last customer had left and the restaurant was finally empty, that Mark took a moment to reflect. He sat down at the small table in the corner of his kitchen, a piece of paper and a pen in front of him. What did he truly want? He wrote down his dream in a single sentence. "I want to create a space where people connect through food, where every meal is an experience." But then, he asked himself a hard question. What action am I taking to align with this dream? Mark realized the answer wasn't just about working harder or longer hours. It wasn't about creating more dishes or slaving away at the stove. It was about intentionality, about making every action, every decision, an offering to his vision. For years, he had focused only on the hustle, thinking that success would come if he worked hard enough. But now he understood. It was about aligning his actions with his true desires, not just pushing himself to the limit. The next day, Mark took his first small step. Instead of rushing through the day's tasks, he slowed down. He began focusing on creating a dining experience that matched the vision he had written down. He took time to connect with his team, to share his passion with them, to make each dish an expression of that vision. It was a small shift, but it made all the difference. Within weeks, things began to change. The customers who came in no longer just ate a meal, they shared an experience. Word spread about the quality of both the food and the atmosphere. Mark's restaurant started to attract a loyal following, and business began to boom. But it wasn't the success that felt so rewarding. It was the realization that his actions were finally in harmony with his intentions. The shift wasn't just external, it was internal. The frantic energy was replaced by a calm, focused determination. and that energy radiated out into everything he did. Karma, Mark realized, wasn't about punishment or reward. It was about aligning action with intention. Every action he took had to be in harmony with the vision he carried within. When his actions reflected his true desires, the universe responded in kind. Takeaway: you must act in alignment with your desires. The universe responds not to the volume of your effort, but to the harmony between your inner intentions and your outer actions. Practice. Take one small action today toward your dream. It could be a conversation, a decision, or an act that brings you closer to your desired future. Make sure that action is aligned with your deepest intentions. Chapter 5. The Power of Gratitude. Maria sat on her balcony in Miami, staring out at the bustling city below, the weight of exhaustion pulling at her bones. As a teacher, she poured herself into her students every day. But it was taking everything out of her. The constant pressure to perform, the endless grading, and the noise of life outside the classroom had worn her down. At night, when the silence fell, she felt empty. She was giving everything to others but had nothing left for herself. One night, as she sat by her window, she found herself reflecting on a conversation she'd had earlier that day. Her mentor, a retired teacher, had given her one simple piece of advice. Start your day with gratitude. Maria had nodded politely, but in the back of her mind it felt like one of those cliches, something easy to say but impossible to practice. Gratitude? It didn't seem like something that could change the weight of burnout that sat heavy on her shoulders, but something in Maria wanted to try. The next morning, after her alarm rang, she sat up in bed, rubbing her tired eyes. She thought about the first thing she could be grateful for. Her mind was resistant, but a small spark of possibility flickered. She thought of the warm cup of coffee she always had before leaving for work, how it grounded her, gave her a small moment of peace in an otherwise chaotic routine. She decided to start there. As the days went by, Maria began to write 3 things she was grateful for each night, just before she turned out the lights. At first, it was hard. The gratitude felt forced, like she was checking off a box in her to-do list. But slowly, as the days merged into weeks, something began to shift. She noticed the small things she had taken for granted, the bright smiles of her students when they walked into class, the laughter in the hallway, the warm Florida sun that bathed her classroom. Each afternoon, Maria started seeing things in a new light. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by her responsibilities, she felt empowered by them. The paperwork no longer seemed endless. It was just part of the process. The loud voices of her students became a reminder of the joy they brought, not a source of stress. Even on the toughest days, when her patience was tested, she found a moment to pause and remind herself of one thing she was grateful for, and that was enough to shift her perspective. Her friends noticed the change. "What's different about you?" they asked. Maria hadn't even realized the transformation herself. She wasn't just going through the motions anymore. She was present. Her energy, once drained by endless tasks, began to regenerate with every grateful thought. As Maria's gratitude practice deepened, so did her sense of abundance. The idea that there was always something to be thankful for, even in the midst of challenges, began to open doors for her. Small moments of joy started showing up when she least expected them. A former student came back to visit, telling her how much her class had impacted their life. A colleague offered to help with a project, lightening her load. The universe, it seemed, was reflecting her gratitude back in ways she hadn't imagined. Maria now understood the Vedic teaching of Kritajna, The power of gratitude to amplify abundance. She learned that gratitude wasn't just about being thankful for what you have. It was about seeing the potential for more, for new opportunities, for growth. It wasn't about waiting for life to give you something to be grateful for. It was about choosing to see the goodness in every moment. In the Vedic tradition, gratitude is a tool for attracting more of what you focus on. When you focus on the good, you magnify it. When you focus on the challenges, you feed them. Maria had learned that gratitude isn't passive, it's an active force that multiplies what you focus on. By consciously choosing to focus on the abundance, around her she invited more joy, more peace, and more opportunity into her life. The results were undeniable. Maria was still working hard, but the burnout had lifted. She no longer dreaded going to work or felt drained at the end of the day. Instead, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The exhaustion was replaced with a sense of purpose as she found joy in both the small and big moments. Practice. Tonight, before you fall asleep, take a moment to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be monumental. They can be as simple as the warm cup of tea you had, the smile of a friend, or the quiet moments of peace in your day. Just write them down. The more you do this, the more you'll begin to see the abundance that surrounds you. You'll find that what you focus on expands, and the universe begins to respond in kind. Reality bends when belief begins. Chapter 6. Non-attachment. Jason had always dreamt of being a successful actor in Los Angeles, but no matter how hard he tried, his big break seemed just out of reach. The long auditions, the constant rejection, and the crushing silence that followed each callback were slowly wearing him down. It felt as though his entire identity was wrapped in the next yes from a casting director. Every role he didn't land felt like a personal failure. His sense of self-worth had become inextricably tied to the idea of success in Hollywood. But one afternoon, sitting in his small apartment with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, Jason did something he hadn't done in months. He let go. He realized that he had been holding onto his dreams with such tight, desperate hands that he couldn't feel the natural flow of life anymore. His desire for success, for validation, had turned into a burden. What if he could still have his dream, without the weight of needing it? A sense of calm washed over him as he sat back in his chair, letting go of the need to control every outcome. He realized something profound. Non-attachment is not indifference. It's freedom. To desire without clinging, to pursue without desperation, was the key. In the Vedic tradition, this concept is called vairagya, the art of non-attachment or freedom from the need to control. Jason didn't stop pursuing his dreams, but he stopped defining himself by the outcomes. He shifted his focus from landing the role to simply enjoying the craft of acting. He immersed himself fully in the process, finding joy in the audition itself rather than fixating on the results. He spent more time learning about his character, diving into the emotional depth of his roles and refining his skills. For the first time, he wasn't anxious about his future. Then, something unexpected happened. One day, his agent called him with news that changed everything. A director had seen him in a small indie film and thought he was perfect for a major role in a new TV series. It was the dream role he had always imagined, one that seemed impossible just a few months ago. As he stood in front of the mirror that night, staring at his reflection, Jason realized that it wasn't the audition or the role that had changed. It was his inner world. Non-attachment had opened the door to an opportunity he had been so desperate for before. When he stopped clinging to the outcome, he allowed life to move in its own timing and magic. By letting go of control, he had created the space for something beautiful to happen. In Vedic philosophy, We are taught that attachment is the root of suffering. By becoming too attached to our desires, we block the flow of life and create resistance. When we let go of the need to control, we open ourselves to the natural unfolding of events. Life, the universe, or whatever you choose to call it, will bring us what we need when we stop gripping so tightly. Jason's journey was a powerful reminder that desire itself isn't the issue. It's the clinging that weighs us down. Desire, without clinging, opens doors. When we hold our dreams lightly, without the desperate need to possess them, we create the space for them to manifest effortlessly. Like a bird that spreads its wings, it soars higher without the weight of a chain. Today, take a moment to examine what you might be holding on to too tightly. What attachments are preventing the flow of possibilities into your life? Is it a job, a relationship, or a specific outcome you've been obsessing over? Let go of the need to control the future and instead, trust that life has a way of unfolding perfectly when you surrender. Release one attachment today. Trust life. Practice. Release one attachment today. It could be something as small as letting go of a lingering expectation about a conversation, or as significant as surrendering the outcome of a career goal. Allow yourself to trust life, knowing that whatever comes next will be for your highest good. Chapter 7. The Practice of Presence. Emily sat alone in her Boston apartment, the hum of the city outside feeling like a distant echo. Her briefcase, filled with papers, was discarded on the table, a physical reminder of the endless deadlines that had consumed her life. As a successful corporate lawyer, she had once believed that busyness equaled importance. But now, after years of climbing the professional ladder, she was drowning. Each day felt like a blur of conference calls, meetings, and paperwork. Her body was exhausted, and her mind was cluttered with the constant noise of, "What's next?" It seemed there was never a moment to breathe. That evening, something shifted. Emily had just returned from a particularly grueling day at the office. The weight of another unreturned email and an angry client's voicemail had been the last straw. In the quiet of her apartment, she collapsed onto the couch, desperate for a sense of peace. Her phone buzzed with notifications, but she ignored it. This time she didn't reach for the usual distractions, the TV, the phone, the scrolling. She had heard of meditation but had always dismissed it as something for people who had time to spare. But in that moment, she was ready to try anything. Sitting upright, she closed her eyes, taking a deep, shaky breath. Her mind resisted at first, racing through to-do lists and pressing concerns. But instead of giving in, she gently brought her focus back to her breath. In, out. Her thoughts came, and then she let them go. For the first time in years, Emily wasn't attached to the noise in her head. She just observed. The first few minutes felt like an eternity, but something unexpected happened. Slowly, the weight on her shoulders began to lift. The intense pressure of the outside world started to recede as she turned inward. She felt the cool air enter her lungs, and with each breath a small wave of calm washed over her. This was possible. She could create stillness within herself even in the middle of chaos. In Vedic philosophy, this practice of withdrawing from the senses is known as pratyahara. It's the art of turning inward, silencing the distractions that bombard us from the outside world. The moment Emily stopped reacting to her surroundings, she began to reclaim control over her mind. No longer was she a passive participant in her stress. Now she was the one choosing how to respond. As she continued to breathe, she moved into the next phase of the practice. Dharana, which means concentration. Emily focused on the rhythm of her breath, guiding her attention away from the anxious chatter that had once been her constant companion. Each inhale and exhale anchored her in the present moment. It was as if for the first time, she truly was in her body, not in the past or future, but here. The mental clutter didn't vanish entirely, but it quieted. Slowly, Emily began to feel the stirrings of clarity, like the fog lifting from a hidden shoreline. She wasn't solving any problems, but she felt better equipped to handle them. Her mind, which had once been scattered in 1,000 directions, now felt focused and centered. The next morning, when Emily returned to work, everything looked the same. The pressure was still there, the deadlines loomed, and the emails piled up. But something had shifted inside her. She approached her tasks with more intention, with less stress and more focus. Her interactions with colleagues were calmer, and her decisions more grounded. The external world hadn't changed, but her internal experience had transformed. The practice of presence, rooted in the ancient Vedic teachings of pratyahara and dharana, had gifted her something precious: the ability to be here, right now, without being consumed by the constant pull of the past and future. Emily had discovered the truth that presence is not a luxury, it's a tool. And when you choose to be present, clarity and opportunity follow naturally. Takeaway: presence is the gateway to clarity. By focusing on the here and now, we are able to attract the opportunities we desire because we stop chasing distractions. The world opens up when we stop letting our minds scatter in 1,000 directions. Practice. Take 5 minutes today to practice mindful breathing. Sit in a quiet space, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Inhale deeply, hold for a moment, then exhale slowly. With each breath, gently release any distractions and bring your awareness back to the present moment. Chapter 8. Trusting the Flow. Diego leaned against the weathered stone wall of a Nashville bridge, his guitar case resting beside him. The soft hum of traffic blended with the rush of the nearby river, and the golden hues of sunset spread across the city. For years, Diego had fought to carve out a place for himself in the music world, facing rejection after rejection. His hands, once trembling with hope, had become numb with frustration. Every audition that didn't lead to a record, Dio felt like another failure, another piece of himself left behind. But tonight, standing here, something inside him shifted. He had spent so many years clinging to a vision of success that he thought he controlled, only to find himself constantly swimming against the current. It wasn't until a quiet night on the porch, after another discouraging phone call from a label, that he finally let go. Sitting in the dim light, Diego closed his eyes and whispered, "I trust." That moment of surrender was the beginning of a new chapter in his life. He had been holding so tightly to his dreams that he hadn't realized they were dragging him down, leaving him breathless and exhausted. The struggle had become his identity, but in the stillness, Diego understood. Real success didn't come from control. It came from trust, from surrendering to the flow of life. In Vedic philosophy, this principle is known as Ishvara Pranidhana, the act of surrendering to the divine, or the universal intelligence that guides all things. It's a paradox that seems counterintuitive at first. To achieve what you desire, you must let go of the need to force it. Ishvara Pranidhana is not about giving up. It's about trusting that there is a greater plan at work, one that is beyond the limitations of the human ego. It's about knowing that life will unfold in its own time, in ways that are often more beautiful than anything we could have imagined. Diego, in his moment of surrender, allowed the universe to take the lead. He stopped trying to control the outcome and simply played, no more chasing contracts or desperately seeking recognition. Instead, he played for the love of the music itself, for the joy it brought him. and within weeks everything began to change. He was invited to a small local gig, just a cozy gathering of strangers. But there, on that stage, a producer heard him play. Not the Diego he had tried to force, but the one who had finally let go. The one who trusted the flow. The offer came soon after. But more importantly, Diego's heart had shifted. He no longer viewed his success as something to be fought for, but as something that would naturally unfold when he let go of the need to control it. It wasn't just the music that had changed, it was his relationship with life itself. Trusting the flow, he invited miracles into his life. Takeaway. Trusting the flow doesn't mean abandoning your dreams or ambitions. It means releasing the constant grip on how things should happen. It's about aligning with the natural rhythm of the universe, which has its own timing and direction. When you stop forcing outcomes, you allow space for unexpected blessings and opportunities to flow toward you. The universe isn't here to punish you, it's here to guide you. But it requires your trust. Trust that things are happening for you, not to you. Trust that what is meant for you will come in the right time, in the right way. The more you trust, the more you'll find that life begins to meet you halfway. When you let go of the need to control, you make room for the divine intelligence to step in and work its magic. Practice. Today, say out loud, I surrender to life's intelligence. This simple declaration will help release the tension you've been holding on to, allowing the universe to take the lead. Trust that whatever is meant for you is already on its way, and in the meantime, focus on aligning with the flow, not resisting it. Take a deep breath and let go. Chapter 9. Amplifying Belief, the Magnetic Mind. Brianna sat in the corner of the bustling cafe in San Francisco, the hum of conversation and the clink of coffee cups almost drowned out by the noise in her mind. Her phone buzzed with a notification from her university, a reminder that finals week was coming. Her palms began to sweat. It wasn't just the pressure of exams, it was the weight of doubt, creeping in like a shadow she couldn't shake. She had always been a decent student, but this semester was different. She felt unprepared, scattered, and unsure of her abilities. Brianna remembered what her mentor had told her a few weeks ago. Your mind is magnetic. What you believe about yourself is what the universe will reflect back. At the time, she had brushed off the advice. It seemed too abstract, too disconnected from the stress she was feeling. But today, as she stared at her unread textbooks, the words started to resonate. What if she had been focusing on all the wrong things? What if she was amplifying her doubts rather than her strengths? The next morning, Brianna made a choice. Instead of letting the pressure of the upcoming exams define her, she decided to redefine the narrative. She could feel the skepticism in her chest, but she pushed it aside. I am capable, I am focused, I am ready, she whispered to herself in front of the mirror. It was awkward at first, the words rolling off her tongue like a foreign language. But something shifted inside her, a tiny spark of belief. That spark was all she needed. She began to incorporate small mental shifts into her routine. Every morning, Brianna stood in front of her bathroom mirror repeating positive affirmations. I am confident. I attract success. My mind is magnetic. The words didn't come easy at first, but over time they started to feel like truth. The more she said them, the more she believed them. It wasn't about pretending to be someone she wasn't. It was about amplifying the belief that already existed within her. She just needed to tune into it. At first, nothing changed overnight. The assignments were still difficult. The tests were still nerve-wracking. But as Brianna moved through her days, her approach shifted. Instead of focusing on the possibility of failure, she began to focus on the possibility of success. She visualized herself walking into her exams with clarity, feeling confident, answering each question with ease. She could see it in her mind as if it had already happened. The more vividly she imagined herself succeeding, the more her confidence grew. Reality bends when belief begins. It didn't take long for Brianna to notice the difference. She started understanding the material better, her focus sharpening with each passing day. The fear of failure that had once paralyzed her no longer held sway over her actions. She showed up differently, in her studies, in her conversations, and in the way she carried herself. It was as if the universe had aligned with her newfound belief and mirrored it back in the form of success. The day of her final exams, Brianna felt calm. She had prepared well, but more importantly, she felt ready. She knew that the work she had put in was just one part of the equation. The other part was her belief in herself. She knew that her mind had been rewired for success, and no matter what the outcome, she would be proud of the person she had become through the process. She walked into the exam room with a quiet sense of confidence, a feeling of inner alignment that could not be shaken. Weeks later, Brianna received her grades. Not only had she passed, but she had aced the exams. More importantly, she had transformed in the process. The confidence she had cultivated became a permanent part of her identity. She had discovered the truth. Strong belief reshapes reality. Practice. Take 2 minutes each morning to vividly visualize one goal you want to achieve. See it, feel it, believe it. Let this mental exercise amplify your belief and tune your mind to attract the success you desire. It's not about wishful thinking. It's about activating the magnetic power of your mind. The magnetic mind works in tandem with belief. When you amplify your belief in yourself, you amplify your ability to attract success, abundance, and opportunities into your life. Trust that your mind is a powerful tool, capable of reshaping your reality with the energy you put into it. Reality bends when belief begins. Chapter 10. Reality bends when belief begins. In the bustling streets of New York, Ravi closed his cafe for the night, wiping down tables as the fading light of day cast a golden glow over the city. His mind wandered back to the days when he was unsure if his dreams would ever come true. He remembered sitting in this very cafe, staring out the window, wondering if his business would survive another year. But tonight, as he looked around at the smiling customers, the vibrant energy of his establishment, he realized belief had brought him here. His sankalpa, his sacred intention, had set everything into motion. He had believed in his dream, in his power, even when the world had seemed indifferent. And it had worked. Reality bends when belief begins. Across the country in Los Angeles, Lisa sat on the rooftop of her apartment, the cool evening breeze soothing her. She had just completed her cancer treatment, a victory that felt almost too big to grasp. The last time she'd been on this roof, her heart was heavy with fear, but now, as she looked at the stars above, she knew that the power of her mantra had carried her through. Her practice had been a thread of light, weaving through the darkest of days, guiding her back to health. Lisa had learned that mantras weren't just words, they were keys to unlocking the strength she didn't know she had. Reality bends when belief begins. Meanwhile, in Boston, Emily smiled as she sat in her favorite cafe, the same place where, just months ago, she'd felt completely lost. She had been a lawyer, overworked and burnt out, trapped in the chaos of her own mind. But after learning to practice presence through meditation, she was no longer overwhelmed by her thoughts. She was grounded, clear, and free. Meditation had not only calmed her mind but had also opened her heart to new opportunities. Opportunities that hadn't even existed when she was running on autopilot. The clarity and peace she had cultivated allowed her to shift from surviving to thriving. Reality bends when belief begins. Back in Chicago, Mark stood outside his restaurant, watching the evening crowd fill the streets. The scent of fresh food wafted through the air, mingling with the laughter and chatter of satisfied customers. He had come a long way from the uncertain days when he didn't know how he was going to keep the doors open. He had learned that karma wasn't just about what he did, it was about how he did it. His actions were now infused with intention and purpose. Every dish he prepared, every customer interaction, was aligned with his deepest desires. And the universe responded by bringing him the success he had always hoped for. Reality bends when belief begins. In Miami, Maria stood on her balcony, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The past year had been a roller coaster, filled with hardship and growth. But through it all, she had embraced gratitude. She had learned to see the good, even in the smallest of moments. Her gratitude practice hadn't erased her struggles, but it had shifted her perspective, allowing her to see abundance in places she hadn't noticed before. She now understood that gratitude wasn't just a feeling, it was a tool for attracting more of what you wanted. Reality bends when belief begins. Jason, now a well-known actor in Los Angeles, reflected on his journey. He remembered the days when he was desperate for success, clinging to every audition, every opportunity. But the moment he let go, when he stopped needing to prove himself and started trusting the process, everything changed. He had learned the power of non-attachment, and in doing so, he became magnetic. Success found him not when he chased it, but when he stopped running. Reality bends when belief begins. In Nashville, Diego stood on stage, his guitar in hand, feeling the energy of the crowd before him. Just a year ago, he had been playing in small, empty bars, hoping someone would hear him. But now, with the release of his first album, he was on the verge of something bigger. He had learned to trust the flow of life. By surrendering control, he had opened himself to the opportunities that the universe had been sending his way all along. Trusting the process had been the key to his success. Reality bends when belief begins. Finally, in San Francisco, Brianna walked across the graduation stage, her heart filled with pride and confidence. She had entered university unsure of her place, but with every step, she had strengthened her belief in herself. She visualized success, focused her mind on her goals, and took inspired action. And now, standing there with her diploma in hand, she knew that her belief had been the bridge to her dreams. Reality bends when belief begins. These stories of Sarah, Ravi, Lisa, Emily, Mark, Maria, Jason, Diego, and Brianna are not just isolated events. They are the embodiment of the Vedic law of attraction in action. Each of these individuals, in their own way, had learned to align their thoughts, actions, and beliefs with the universal laws of creation. They had integrated the Vedic principles of intention, action, presence, trust, non-attachment, and gratitude into their daily lives. And by doing so, they had created the reality they once only dreamed of. Now, it's your turn. Your belief system is the architect of your reality. Everything you've read in this book, every practice, every principle, has been designed to help you tap into your own creative power. The universe responds to what you believe, to what you expect. So, what do you believe? To bring this journey to its fullest, take a moment to craft your personal Vedic attraction statement, a one-line affirmation that captures your deepest belief and intention. This is your declaration to the universe. Speak it with conviction, live it with faith, and watch as reality bends to your belief. Practice. Craft your personal Vedic attraction statement. It can be simple, powerful, and specific to your dreams. For example, I am deserving of success and abundance, and I trust that the universe is guiding me every step of the way. Say it every day, write it down, and allow it to shape your actions, your beliefs, and your reality. Conclusion. The infinite potential within you. As you close the pages of this book, remember that the Vedic wisdom we've explored isn't just philosophy. It's a living, breathing force inside of you. The principles of sankalpa, karma, gratitude, and non-attachment aren't just spiritual concepts. They are your blueprint for transforming every corner of your life. You now understand that you are not a passive observer in your own story. You are the creator. Reality bends when belief begins. Every belief, every intention, every action you take is a brushstroke on the canvas of your existence. Look around you. Every moment, every person, and every challenge is an opportunity to practice what we've learned. There is no magic wand, no secret formula, but there is something far more powerful, your own consciousness. By aligning your thoughts, actions, and beliefs with your deepest desires, you harness the forces of the universe in a way that is uniquely your own. It's time to trust in the process. Trust that you are being guided. When you practice presence, surrender, and unwavering belief, doors that were once locked will open. Obstacles will shift. The universe will meet you where you are and help you step into the life you've always desired. The path ahead may not always be easy, but with each step, you are writing your own story, one of purpose, power, and infinite possibility. The Vedic law of attraction isn't just about manifesting things. It's about becoming the highest version of yourself, aligned with the universal flow. Remember this, above all else, reality bends when belief begins, and now it's your turn to believe. Now take a moment to craft your own personal Vedic attraction statement. This is your declaration of what you want to manifest in your life, grounded in the wisdom of Vedic teachings. Speak it daily. Write it down and feel its power. The universe is ready to respond. Your journey starts now. The world is waiting for you to step into your power. Believe, and watch the universe unfold before you.